Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. And today we are going to be talking with Sofia Bothwell. She is from Wales, UK, and we are going to be really diving in deep on having freedom from compulsive eating, learning to understand your body and using emotions and understanding that whole process. So she is going to dive us in deep on that, and I can't wait to get started. So who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I have been connected with spirit, working with the non-physical realm my entire life. I have been sharing multitudes of messages with people and spirits all through the world. I am a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host, retreat host, gallery reader. I do speaking engagements, offering guidance, mediumship, and intuition. I do online and group sessions, along with classes and the Amplified Universe membership. This is a membership growing our connection to us, our world, and our role in it, sharing knowledge with people around the world. And you can find me on pretty much all the social media, but go to my website, angelazable.com. And today we are here with the Edge magazine. Hopefully I can get it centered here. The Edge magazine is a leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, wellness, and the mysteries beyond. Sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed in promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. They are currently distributed in 30 states plus Canada, with over 17,000 magazines per printing, and also a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. You can have a magazine shipped to your door, stay up to date with a newsletter, or become a drop spot. Go to edgemagazine.net and sign up for everything there. And today, Sophia Bothwell is the author with True Slimness and Simply Full. She was born and raised in Ireland, and she moved to London, England at the age of 20 after healing her own eating disorder. She did further research into eating disorder recovery and trained as a breath worker in 93 and 94 before setting up a self-help support groups for compulsive eating women. She has written several self-help books, novels, and her autobiography. She currently lives in Wales. I encourage everyone to go check out her website. She has some great information on there. It is sophiabotwell.com dot co dot uk. Sorry, I'm so used to the dot com here. And those links will be down below. And it's SOFIABOTHWELL dot co dot uk. You can find out so much information there. She's also on Instagram and she does phone and Skype sessions. She is the author of True Slimness and Simply Full. And if you go on her website, there's also a Am I Hungry handout that's downloadable on there. And it is so interesting and has such great information on it. So, Sophia, I am so happy to have you here. And I'm just wondering, how did this journey start? And did it take you to make that move to go more public and really help others with your journey?
Yes, hi Angela, thank you so much. Yeah, my journey started really when I was 13 years old, and like many teenagers, I went on a diet. I wasn't particularly overweight, but I just got sucked into that whole diet mentality, and life would be better if I was slimmer and whatnot. And what happened was it escalated my obsession with food, my thinking about food, my worrying about my weight, my weighing myself, my wanting to be slimmer. Escalated and got worse over the coming 5 years. So by the time I was 18, I was also bulimic by then. So
Wow.
it had the disorder had manifested itself as starving myself during the day, and then I'd binge at night, and I'd start eating and I wouldn't be able to stop eating, and then I would go back on a diet. I would find a diet in some sort of a teenage magazine or some publication like that. They were very widespread in those days. This was the 1980s in Ireland. And I got sucked into the whole thing of calorie counting, and I
Mm.
noticed over the years, this thing is just getting worse. I'm maybe following a diet, excuse me, for 5 days of the week. And then I would just be missing the foods that I was denying myself. I would be missing the chocolate. I would be missing the biscuits. So then, usually, come a Friday evening, school was over, and I was at home on the farm in Ireland, and the shopping would have been done for the week. And I would start on the biscuits and the cereal, and it would just the eating would continue into the night, and I would be going to sleep with a very, very full stomach, pain, just feeling as if I was full up to here, feeling very uncomfortable, and not knowing what on earth was going on. Just really realizing, hey, this is out of control. I don't actually have control over this. And I was very miserable about that. And it was taking up my time and my attention. So I was always looking for the next diet and the answer to this dilemma. I was only about a stone and a half overweight. People would look at me and say, "Well, you're okay. You look fine. Why do you want to lose weight?" And other people would say, "Oh, yeah, you could lose a bit of weight, blah blah blah." So I had left school and was working. I was 18, 19 at the time, and on my lunch hour, I walked into a bookstore. And on the book, I've always loved reading. And on the
Mm.
bookshelves, I found a book called Fat is a Feminist Issue. Now, this was again 1980s Ireland. The feminist movement had just more or less started, probably in America as well, around the same time,
Yeah.
and in England, in the UK. Not so much in Ireland. Ireland was a little bit behind the times, especially in the rural parts where I was from. So I looked at this book. I thought, this is interesting. This is definitely new. And on the back cover, I distinctly remember it said, this is an anti diet book. This is a non
Oh,
diet method. So I'd had 5 years of following diets and it had gotten me nowhere.
right.
I thought, well, what's this anti-diet, non-diet thing this lady's on about? And she was a psychologist, Dr. no, Susie Orbach is the name of the author, Susie Orbach. She's an English lady, but I think she has done work in New York as
Yes.
well. Yeah. So I dove into that book and I just studied it, and it was like a light going on. It was just my saving grace. And I practiced what it preached, and it taught me that when I craved to eat when full, it was to do with my emotions. And I had to tap into my emotions and ask myself how I was feeling. And that would help stop the craving for food when full, because the activity of eating when full was enabling me to suppress my emotions. Now, no diet had ever taught me that, but this psychologist was teaching me this. She was a psychologist
Wow.
as well. And I loved this. I really resonated with it. And it being from a feminist perspective, it also taught us about women's role in society. And again, that was just like, of course, this is what's happening. This is how I'm being treated. Yes, we are second class citizens to a certain extent. It
Yeah.
really opened my eyes a lot to the truth of what was going on, how men and women were paid differently back then, how men and women are treated different and have different roles in society, and how food is very much a female domain, if you like.
Mm.
So I was able to, the bulimia went like that. It just went straight away. And as I kept being more in tune with my emotions and actually asking myself, well, what do I want? What would I like? My life started to open up more for me, and I ended up through a series of coincidences. My boyfriend was moving to London to work on the buildings because we didn't have any work then. Ireland was going through a recession in the
Yeah.
1980s. We had no work prospects. Even though I came from a relatively wealthy family, I wouldn't have been stuck, so to speak. But they were dysfunctional in their own way, like most families are. This is the thing, it's very normal. And I needed to move away from that. I was a young woman, I wanted to move out, be with my boyfriend. So we moved to London, and that was brilliant. And yes, I wanted to tell people about this method. I'm a natural teacher, I'm a Capricorn, and I just naturally teach. And I Was lucky enough some 6 years later to contact the Women's Therapy Centre in London and sit in on a 9 month support group of theirs as a recovered compulsive eater in as a sort of a training for my setting up my own self-help support groups in London. I'm not a psychologist. I will have to say this. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a GP. I am a woman who has suffered from and overcome her eating disorder. This is about healing addictions. And a lot of mainstream stuff, if that helps you heal your addiction, well and good, but it didn't help me and it doesn't help a lot of other people. So I think this complements any mainstream stuff that helps you beautifully. And it certainly helped me. I've been healed over 30 years now, 40 years. I'm 60 now. And I've maintained that healing all those decades now. And this is my journey, and I love sharing. I think there's tremendous benefit in sharing our stories and the wisdom of being the elder, if you like, and moving into the old crone years now. And that has tremendous value. And as a woman as well, we have tremendous value. And we must come back to that. And academia has its place, but it cannot, um, you know, override the wisdom of sharing stories and sharing our experiences as a way of healing, quite frankly, because it works beautifully for so many of us that will enable us to heal. So this is why I like to get my message across, because I say, hey, this was my journey. Hopefully something will give you an insight into your journey, and we can share our stories. And I learn as much from my clients as they do from me. It's a beautifully evolving journey, and my journey has evolved. It's not the same as what initially healed me. It's just been added to with more and more tools to keep
Mhm.
me healed and to allow me to expand as a human being. And that's so beautiful and interesting as well. I just find the whole thing totally fascinating.
I love that. And one of the things you brought up that I think is so important for people is you talked about you're not a psychologist, you're not trained in any of that, but the thing is, you have experienced it, you have lived it. That is your training, that is your experience. And like you said, sometimes it's coming from people who understand it on a level, but not on a total level. So a lot of those, they may not have been there, but even if they've been there, they're looking at it in a, like you said, more of an academia approach to it versus looking at it from a human standpoint and the emotions that go behind it. I think that is the most important thing that you said. And I'm highly encouraging everyone to go to her website because you don't have to have a full eating disorder to get the help and the understanding from what she offers in her books because this is about when you have I've got a few pounds or I know I'm eating out of emotional need a lot of times. And that's so important for people to realize. A lot of times we do eat out of emotional need and that's the easiest way to quelch it to start with. And that's
Yeah.
something you have really dived deep into is the emotions behind it. And then you started talking about how your journey has shifted and how you're continuing to heal that and the emotions and there's so much to unpack here. I'm
Yeah.
because the emotions behind everything, and like you had said, with women especially, and not that men don't suffer from this or have these conditions, but women I feel have more pressure on themselves to maintain how do you look and bring that and to maintain ideals that really are very unachievable for most
Yeah.
people. The ideals they put out there are, here and there, one in a million people, but everyone is supposed to look like them instead of being comfortable with who we are. And is that something that was really for you, being comfortable with who you are, with the emotions of it as you went through your healing?
Yeah, definitely. It was being aware of my emotions.
Mm.
Um, And a lot of the emotions are going to be uncomfortable. So it's
Yes.
not necessarily about being comfortable with the emotions that's coming up. It's about being able to handle the emotions that are coming up. Like I personally realized I had to leave home. That came through first and foremost for me. You gotta leave home.
Yeah.
Your time here is done, kind of thing. You can't evolve or grow in a farm in Ireland, you know.
I think what
Always
you just
loved.
said there is important for people to realize that there's going to be times where you're going to feel nudged to know, I would love to heal with, say, with family or people around me, but they're not the right people to resonate with you at the moment to help you on your next path, your healing growth. And for you, I have a team in the non-physical, and they're saying with you, you were so in tune to listening to your own team to go, I know I can't heal here. I know I have to physically move from this location to break me out of this energy that's here to move
Yes.
where I knew I could find the freedom I needed. And and they're just saying you have been so in tune of listening to your team throughout your years, and it has helped you immensely. And they're just showing it springboarded you ahead and you realizing you are that teacher. You have been that teacher. And sometimes the teacher has to go through everything the students have experienced themselves, and that's something you have done. And they're saying, of course, not every little minute detail, but you have gone through so much of it and knowing how it affects you. And as you started doing the healing journey of yourself, that you're saying that it switched very quickly once you realized the emotions were tied to it. Was that something where you were just in the moment of everything and didn't realize how much outside, say, societal things were affecting you on a soul level?
Um, can you say that question in another way? I'm not sure I totally understand it.
Yeah, they're asking, was there a time where you started realizing that there was more than maybe just your emotions tied to it, along with the societal, with, or they're backing me up. The societal aspects were kind of what started you on the journey of doing the bulimia and going down with the food and with watching yourself, and then recognizing later there was more emotions tied to it than just that what you had originally thought.
Yeah, the it was a combination of both. It was my awareness of my own emotions,
Mm.
and then awareness of the influences around me, the influences of my mother, the influences of my father and my brother, and my friends. And then also because where I was born and raised in Ireland was very near the border in Ireland. I don't know if you know all the kind of political situation
Political.
then, but you could sense there was issues there. The political issues in that climate um, was an influencing factor as well. The Catholics and the Protestants, so that was an influencing factor. And I was very astute, even as a child. You know, I kind of could sense what was going on. I just took it as normal. So yes, it all interweaves in a person when one increases one's awareness. You've got the inner world of your anger or your fear or your boredom or your anxiety. And then you've got your nudges, you've got your unresolved issues, and then you've got your guiding light. You know, you've got your nudges saying, hey, hang out with this person a little bit more, join that class, you know, leave the country, which was fine. Yeah, okay, leave the country. My boyfriend said, you want to come to London? Okay. So simple. So simple, but you know, again, it's these beautiful coincidences that just come along. But yeah, it's being aware of the inner world, the inner emotional climate, and the outer socio-economical, political, family dynamics that are around us and are different in one location to another. So that was probably why it was so important for me to actually go from literally a farm in the middle of nowhere where there's just fields everywhere, which is beautiful in its own way, to the local town which was a small town, and then on to one of the world's capital cities. And I
That's
lived
a
in the center of
big
London.
change.
Yeah, massive, massive. But it was so perfect because I fit in straight away. I always knew I loved city life.
Mm,
I always knew from we would take a family trip to Dublin, to the city in Ireland. And that was like, wow, this is different than a farm,
right.
duh, obviously. But I loved London. I really just fell into that beautiful, fast pace and the diversity and the cosmopolitan and the freedom and just you could walk outside your door and hop on the tube or on a bus and go anywhere. And you had these magnificent buildings and the architecture and the colleges. And it's like like I say in my biography, My Life, My Way, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The teacher for me was a city. It was a
Oh,
city. Who knew a city, a whole city could be your teacher? But it was. It was a beautiful, wonderful experience. Like difficult. It brought its own challenges. But
yeah.
nevertheless, when you're authentically right on track, it doesn't matter so much if it's difficult. This is what I learned. When you're
And
constantly suppressing and running away from your emotions, that's more difficult because you're like in a fog, you're like in the mud, it's like in a quagmire. And then when you come out, yeah, life is still difficult. You're still like moving forward, and there's challenges and there's problems and there's issues. But you've got that security of being connected to yourself, of
yeah.
having a sense of self and constant and being your own best friend, you know?
I think that that's so important for people because a lot of people don't want to face those emotions because in the end they have to work through it or the challenges in their life because they have to work through it. But by doing so, they just, like you said, they're just creating this quagmire and you just can't move forward through it. But with you, you realized that by moving forward, it would may still be challenging, but you were the one in control. You were the one in the driver's seat. And as you've been moving through your journey, did you find it more comfortable? Well, there, my team is backing me up. Did you find that it naturally happened where you started like, oh, I'll start putting a group together or start talking with people or start making a book, start authoring a book? Or was it more of some gentle nudges or your intuition along the way of which step to do next?
Yeah, it was like, what could I do? When I moved to London first, it was all about my own recovery and it was finding a way forward. So, again, without having an academic background, a lot of doors are shut for you. So, you can't just go work with the local, eating disorder clinic or whatever. Um, and as well with literally emigrating to a new country, it was right, how do I pay the bills? I didn't have the support of my family. I had to go out and work and just did some general catering work. I worked in the Royal College of Music in South Kensington, which is just a magnificent ancient building and had a beautiful history of great composers. And it trained opera singers. It was a very high end college. And I worked in the canteen there. So a lot of it was just getting used to my new life. My boyfriend I was living with turned out to be um, I don't know if he was actually a drug addict because a lot of it was being hidden from me, but
Right.
there was something going on. So this was like my education was continuing.
Yeah.
I was learning how sneaky addiction can be.
Oh,
So
interesting way to put that, how you're learning, you learned a different side of addiction. Interesting.
yeah, so life was throwing me one university course. This is the PhD for you now, lady. This is what university was. This is what the universe was saying to me. So I went along like that for a while and I tried some different courses, art courses, typing courses, and did various different jobs. And I was struggling with this relationship with this man that was getting worse and worse and wondering how this is going to happen, how this is going to on. So that sidetracked me a lot.
Yeah.
That really was a curveball. And it wasn't until later that I was able, when I was 26, 27, I contacted the Women's Therapy Centre and I said, look, I want to start studying and working in this field of eating disorder recovery. Now, the Women's Therapy Centre in London was set up by Susie Orbach, the
Oh,
author of
wow.
Fat is a Feminist Issue. So it really had a full circle link for me. That was a dream come true for me, that I could be involved with this centre, that was started by this woman whose book had changed my life,
Mm.
you know. And I started reading about positive thinking. So I learned how to think, yes, there is a way forward. I'm not academically trained, but there is going to be ways forward with this, maybe. And the whole self help um, sort of um, movement was starting in London. I joined a group that was also a self-help support group on women who love too much. That's a book
Oh,
by Robin Norwood. Now, that helped explain to me why I was with a man that was indulging too much in alcohol and drugs, or, well, I had actually left him by then. But it explained to me what was going on in that dynamic, and it helped me heal aspects of that and other deeper issues as well that were surfacing. And I became a breathwork coach around that time as well. So it was very organic, but over quite a long period of time. But it was a benefit to me because I was young. I was very
right.
young. I was 20 when I healed my eating disorder. So I still had to go through some living of life, if you like, in
Mm.
6 years. And then I went into the serious training for the setting up of my own self-help support groups, which I did when I was 27.
Yeah, and I love that journey, and as you went through it, I love the full circle with the book and how you worked with the center, with the author. How amazing is that?
Yeah, I know.
And then the other part you talked about, and that's something, there are a lot of people, and I'm just going to say that as I'm doing a lot of different sessions, there's a lot of givers, a lot of women that are very much givers, and they're in relationships with people who are takers. And
Yeah,
that emotion, and I like how you had said emotionally, you were, I forget how you put that, where it was easier, you saw yourself because you were a giver going into that relationship, and how then understanding the giving in yourself and then learning how to work through that so you don't do it again.
yeah.
And how did you, the emotional part of it, was it just you kind of sitting down and going, what am I doing? How do I work through this? Why am I giving? Or did you start setting some personal boundaries with yourself and realizing that it couldn't turn, you couldn't go past those boundaries with him?
I didn't know what was going on um, over, I suppose, about 2 years in the relationship. I seen thing again. It was like the food.
Hmm.
There's something going on here, and I don't know what's going on and what's happening. But I'd already healed my eating disorder, and I drew from those tools. So I kept asking myself, what's the solution to this? What's the way forward with this? And I didn't have the solutions. And I consciously knew I didn't have the solutions to deal with this. I didn't want to leave him
Right.
at one point. And at that point, then I started to drink and smoke. Again, I was just a young woman. So that's what you do when you're young and you
Right.
live in London and you're Irish. You have a few drinks, you have the cigarette. Well, I
Absolutely.
did that. I did that. I did that. And another friend of mine came over from Ireland, and then he moved out for a while, and I lived with my friend. So that gave me a bit of room to think things through. And then I got back with him for about another year, and then I realized, no, he is sick. There's something going on here. He's dysfunctional. But I didn't understand why I wanted to stay with him. I didn't understand this. But anyway, I did have the wherewithal to leave. I gave up smoking after a year or two. I realized it was helping me deal with my emotions. So I had enough insight to know, right, the smoking is another addiction that snuck up on me. I conquered
Yeah.
that. I got rid of that. Then I left him. I had just reached a point where I thought, no, enough is enough. I reached my own personal sort of limit with him, and I thought, no, I've suffered enough now in this, and I had the wherewithal to leave, and I just moved to another part of London, and immediately it was just like, whew, this is good. And a friend of mine gave me the book Women Who Love Too Much.
Oh,
Even though I had left him, I still had, residual, obviously unresolved things around there. And I started studying then more in depth into psychology, the psychology of the eating disorders. Now, this book, Women Who Love Too Much, showed me how when you stay with an abusive partner, or if you stay with a drug addicted partner or an alcoholic, or someone that's psychologically abusing you, a narcissist giving you the
no.
silent treatment, physically hitting you, is unfaithful to you. If you're staying with someone like that, if you're saying, I still love him, if you still got that going on, you're addicted to him. You're still an addict. And I thought, aha, so that's what's going on. Now, that clarity and that knowledge and that insight really made sense to me. You see, me being focused on him, wishing and hoping he would change, was a huge distraction from my own unresolved pain. Now, that was key information for me, and I'll repeat it. When you stay with a partner and you're wishing and hoping he will change, it's a huge distraction from your own pain. Okay, we'd rather
Mm.
focus on him. Oh, would it all be okay if he would just give up the drink and give up the drugs? No, 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 no. You gotta take your focus off him, come back to you, and ask yourself, what am I feeling? And get in tune with the emotions that you've been running away from. Then you can easily leave him. Easily drop him like a hot potato and think, what the hell was I doing with that guy? You know? So you just
I
see
love
the
it.
purpose. There's always a payoff. You stay in the dysfunctional relationship because it's a huge distraction from your own pain. Now, this is what addiction is all about. This is what the eating when full is all about. This is what the staying with the abusive partner is all about. This is what drinking and smoking is all about, drug taking, gambling. It's about a distraction and a numbing of our own personal pain and issues and unresolved emotional issues. So when we're aware of that, we really know what we're dealing with. So I knew I just had to start allowing my previously suppressed emotional issues to surface. So I could do that because I had left him. Yeah, I had that space. I was living on my own in a rented room. I wasn't working at the time. I was looking into doing some more courses, and that's when I did a course in miracles. There was a
Yeah.
course on a course in miracles called Attitudinal Healing. I joined that one. I joined a Women Who Love Too Much support group, and I was at the Women's Therapy Centre sitting in on their 9-month support group for compulsive eaters. And I was doing a lot of reading, and a lot of cycling. I was cycling around London, going here and there. I was just so free, so happy. And then in the Women Who Love Too Much support group, there was a woman there who was a breath worker. I'd never heard of breath work. And she said she was going to give a few discount sessions to people. So I said, yeah, I was really intrigued by this method she was talking about. And I had a very intense experience with the first breathwork session I had with her. And looking back on it now, I wonder if it was a Kundalini awakening, because I felt a huge amount of energy, which was fear, shooting up my spine and out the top of my head. And I just burst into tears, absolutely sobbing and crying. And she's just coaching me through it, just keeping eye contact with me, locking with me, and just breathing through it. And that healed a huge chunk of fear, if not terror, from me. I don't know if it was birth trauma or what, but it was a huge emotional, energetic release. And I remember walking home towards a tube station, and we were in the same area of town, of London, where my ex lived. And I remember approaching the tube station thinking it would be so easy for me just to nip down the road and go and knock on his door and see if he's there. This is before mobile phones or anything, you know.
Right?
So
Where
you
you
had to
actually
just
had to
knock
knock
on the
on
door.
doors.
This is like 1993. And I remember just making the decision, no, that wouldn't be a good idea. And I think that was the turning point for me, that I had really gained my freedom from this, what would now be called a trauma bond,
Yes.
where we are bonded to our abusers, a trauma bond. So through the inner healing, through the breath work, that trauma bond was broken.
Love it.
So
You
it's
know,
amazing. It's amazing when we heal ourselves, the addictions drop away. He was the object of my addiction. You got to look at what can be the object of your addiction. It can be a person, it can be food when full, it can be alcohol, it can be a cigarette. When you heal your own emotional issues, you're no longer linked to those things. Those things have no power over you, no matter how long you've been an addict, no matter what you're addicted to. If you heal the underlying emotional issue through breath work, through counseling, through therapy, through reading a book, through a self-help support group, through whatever means, usually holistic means,
yes.
you those things just drop away and you don't have cravings. The cravings disappear because you don't need those things anymore.
I find it really fascinating how you went through and talked about, when you start looking at anything, it's an addiction on some level. And I love how you said, even though I healed the one part of it, I didn't realize there was other addictions there with the the wanting the giver and the being in the trauma and being in a relationship that wasn't serving you, being in those situations, not realizing it was also part of an addiction. And that's something. I'm glad you brought that up because I keep hearing from my team, there's so many people who feel like, okay, I've beat this one, and then thinking everything is complete and not realizing that there could be another, they're just saying like another one popping its head up to say, here's another addiction, just in another way. And knowing, and I keep hearing from my team, they just want people to know it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you're just investigating and growing and learning who you are and releasing trauma and fear. And I love how you brought up fear because, and like you said, you didn't even know, is this fear I had? Did it come from, generational? And my team is just saying fear is in us to the deepest core on so many levels. And as we're doing all these different, like you said, different holistic things, it's releasing that fear. We don't have to know where it came from, not all of it. It's just knowing that we can release it. And with you working with being drawn to that breath work, you were following your team, following your guidance once more to release that, to move yourself forward. And I know this is about compulsive eating and addiction, but it's also about listening intuitively to who we are and listening to your guidance that you hold yourself. And I I feel just delighted that you are here to bring, they're just showing like bringing pieces of a puzzle together for so many people because a lot of people look at it as this is the addiction from here, say from eating or eating and just going because I'm full, but I'm still going to eat. And then there's the addiction of being the giver and why are you the giver? And there's so many little parts of it along the way. And you're putting those pieces together, knowing it's not separate things, but actually all combined with the emotional part. And that is just so key for so many people.
Yes.
And as you've been working with people along the way, they're asking, did you notice when you were talking with people and sharing your story that people were resonating with you? And is that what kind of drew you to start doing authoring the book also?
Yeah, well, I've always loved writing. Writing is just a natural joy to me. And I started writing the book when I started my first self-help support groups in London at the age of 27. So it was just a handwritten manuscript. I started with, and that was healing the eating habit. It's now this, and then I went through the then computers came in and I put it on my computer and tried to get it published. And it's self-published now through Lulu online publishing. That's LULU online
Yeah.
publishing. All my books are there on Lulu. Um, because with the internet, the whole publishing arena has opened up and it's shifting and changing like everything is in this day and age. It's absolutely beautiful. Everything is morphing into something better and more holistic. So the self-publishing route is the route that I went down, and selling the books in health fairs. But I have to say, it is just following your joy. I was just always following my joy, because you see, I I grew up in a wealthy family. They were wealthy. It was a large farm. They had the fancy cars. My dad was into vintage cars, and he bought a couple. He had enough money to buy like a vintage car. And I had a pony. I learned to ride. My brother learned how to fly. And yet I knew my mum and dad weren't happy. You
Mm,
know, I knew that on a deep level, like they've passed away now. And I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I wasn't happy. So, as I said, and as you said as well, there's nothing wrong with us. We all grew up in dysfunctional families. We all grew up in dysfunctional families. And I do see this as a journey. Again, it's not you heal one addiction and then my life is perfect. It's not like that. It's a journey. It's you heal one chunk of it, your life alters and changes, and then
mm,
you're at a plateau and you get used to this new life and the freedom of, yes, I'm no longer obsessed with food, and my self-acceptance is raised, and life overall feels better. But now this challenge is emerging, and now this next level of unresolved stuff is emerging. So then you're negotiating that, and you're finding new tools and ways to negotiate that. And then another piece gets healed. And then another piece of resistance comes up. And then another piece of trauma surfaces. And so you're constantly sort of thinking, okay, this is my life. And this is what I say, it's a morphing. And I love, the idea of all things are impermanent.
oh,
All things are impermanent. We are all on a journey and we all have emotions.
yes.
Now, what do we do with these emotions? And we all have traumas, and
Yes.
we all have challenges. Now, that's just humanity straight across the
Yep.
board, no matter whether you're rich, poor, no matter what ethnic background you come from. You've got emotions, and you've got challenges, and you've got traumas. We all have that. Now, that's our uniting thing there, right there. Our choices: do I suppress these emotions? Do I suppress these challenges? Do I suppress these problems and issues through addiction? And God knows there's so many types of addiction we can indulge in and are readily available to us, legal or illegal. Do we indulge in them? Or do we take the other route, the route of integration, feeling our feelings, facing up to our challenges, increasing our awareness, developing new skills? It's all about that fork in the road that's consistently there in our lives. Now, following your joy. I was just so enthusiastic and so interested in what that woman was saying when she talked about breath work.
Mm.
So you've got to follow your joy. You've got to follow your bliss, you
I
know?
that's so very important. And you hit on a couple of points. They just want me to back up and they want people to know everybody has trauma. Everybody, you can be from the
Yeah.
best family with everything, but you experience things different. You can have everything perfect in your family, but you may experience something different in that family. and to know it's okay. And the other part you brought up was it's a constant evolution. As I've heard some people like, oh, I've went through all of this trauma. I've done all this work on myself. I should be done. I should only
Mm.
have joy and nothing else in there. And then it comes down to what's wrong with me. And
Nothing.
instead it's like, but what's right with you? Because you've already moved through such a big chunk of it. Now you can take care of some more and you can find more joy and feeling the confidence in yourself as you're moving through these, a lot of times, traumatic areas in your life. You're
Yeah.
moving through them and you're doing it and you're gaining confidence and skills that will help you move through the next challenge in a much quicker and a much faster, and being happy and going, oh, I got through that pretty quick. That was really fun. And finding the joy and being excited about it. And that's something I see with you is you're excited, like I got through this and I'm excited about what I've accomplished and where I'm going next. And knowing you can handle whatever comes towards you, you can move through it with the skills you've learned through they're just saying the times where you weren't quite sure what your footing was, but you were able to
Yeah.
move through it and all of the skills you've learned. And I'm so glad you brought that up to let people know we're always going to learn. We're always going to find new skills. And everything we do is helping us grow and expand. And I've got to say, my team is just saying for you, you have been helping so many people grow and expand. And I just feel you've done it with such grace. They're just showing how you are so comfortable to so many people, how you bring that comfort to them. And to me, that is just so important to let people know it's okay. It's okay. You really are a gentle teacher for people. And I am just so impressed with
Oh,
everything
thank you.
you do.
Thank you so much. I think
And
we learn to be gentle with ourselves. I've had to learn to be gentle with myself because when you're overcoming an addiction, when you're overcoming an eating disorder, you're learning to be your own loving parent. Most of
yeah,
us were brought up by mothers who were unloved children and
yeah.
fathers who were unloved children. And it goes back generation upon generation. So when you're the person in the family which is saying the buck stops here, I'm
Yeah.
not going to continue with the lack of love. I am going to nurture myself. I'm going to heal myself. So you become your own loving mother. You become very gentle with yourself and you nurture and heal your own inner child. So I think then that just expands out to how you um, treat other people as well. You've just got that gentleness because you've experienced it yourself, because you've given it to yourself, and it's a great gift to give to yourself that, yeah, I can be my own loving mother, and heal that inner child.
I think those are profound words for people out there to realize instead of looking at back at life and going, oh, this was bad or that's bad, but instead to look at yourself and go, I can heal myself now. I can be the parent, the mother, the father. I can be that to myself, even though I didn't experience it in life then. But by you redoing it now, by you being that to yourself, boy, what a shift it makes in the universe. And so many, the amount of generational change that is happening upon the earth right now is astronomical. And a lot of it comes from people like you, Sophia. So many people. It's because of people like you that are helping people and showing them a new way. And your heart is just so big with you and helping people see that heart in themselves. Oh, that my team is just saying that's one of your great skills. You
Uh-huh.
have such a big heart that you are letting other people, you are allowing them to see their heart also as you see it. What a beautiful skill with that.
Oh, thank you. I'm everybody's mother. That's what I'm everybody's mother.
I love it.
The old crone, yeah, the old crone, the wise woman, everybody's mother.
So I want to ask you, you also do private sessions, correct?
Yeah, I do one-to-one sessions. Yeah, they last an hour and it's via Skype or Facebook video call or Zoom or whatever medium people like. Yeah. And I do online groups as well.
And they can find, and I know for people, you can go on her website, you can find that you can sign up and for the online session, because I just feel you have such a big heart and people can have that personal connection to you to help them through what they're doing, to help them through what they can't sometimes see themselves. And you are just enlightening that for them. And so I highly encourage people to go on your website and check that out. And I do want to bring up, there's something, so you made a post, I believe it was on your Instagram, I'm not sure, it's there somewhere. It was in 2024, and you have to stop worrying about your weight. You have to stop worrying about love. You have to stop worrying about money. All you have to do is focus on resolving your emotional issues linked to money, love, and weight. A decrease in excess weight, an increase in money, and the bringing of love is the result of resolving the emotional stuff. Through emotional resolving, we are able to handle our eating patterns, change our attitudes towards body image, raise our self-acceptance, handle our money, or relate to our finances in new holistic ways that allow us to be secure and free. And I feel when I read that, I was like, wow, that is such a powerful statement for people to realize by handling and working through our emotions, how it changes not just what we were originally working on, but how it changes everything in your life. And for you, you have had such profound changes in your life. And I like the other part of it is money because people worry so much about money. And how has that changed, or how did you bring that connection with the money and our emotions together?
Well, I knew I was getting a big sort of teaching around money from the fact that I was, as I said before, born into a wealthy family. And I realized firsthand it didn't bring happiness
Mm,
because that's what we're taught. That's what we're sold. Hey, if you got the car, if you got the house, if you've got the this, if you've got the that, if you've got the big bank account, you're going to be happy. Well, I learned firsthand that's a lie. I had that really in my cellular being. So as I became more aware of my emotions, I realized, well, if I'm not going to follow the money like we're told to do, if I'm not
yeah,
going to follow the prestige, what am I going to follow? And I realized I'm going to follow the still small voice within. I'm going to follow what I love, what I like, because that's a big part of healing any addiction. Start tuning into what your interests are, what you like, what you would love to do. And in this book, yeah, in My Life, My Way, you got to dig deep in order to blossom. Um, I write about how following that still small voice within always provided for me financially, but I never had like a lot in the bank. But at the time of writing this book, I was hit with probably the real dark stuff, the dark night of the soul.
mm,
It was like I'm going along in my life and I'm following my joy and I'm doing my eating disorder healing and I had my baby and I moved away from my second relationship because I realized on some level that was ended really.
right.
So I moved on. Ain't going to stay there if I'm not supposed to. But I realized not a lot of people were going to support me. Again, it came back to fat is a feminist issue. Women are second class citizens, women's role in society, especially the natural woman. Now, this opens such a fascinating
Hmm,
topic because the whole feminist movement, if you like, you know, it brought to light a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting stuff. And again, women's role in society was jostled about and was morphing into something else.
yeah,
So, first, you could say women became men. They just became executives. They became money makers. They adopted a male patriarchal sort of stance in the world. Well, that's not really what feminism is about.
Mhm.
And I was very natural and very into my emotions. I was into natural birth. And I knew as a woman, this gift of being able to give birth and nurture life, well, nobody pays you for that.
Right.
It's not even held in very high esteem in society. And to a greater or lesser extent, it does, you know, it in its natural, pure form of giving birth naturally, giving birth in water, giving birth where the child is with the mother, breastfeeding. There's wonderful books on this. There's the continuum concept. Jean Lydolf, I think, is the author, and also The Secret Life of the Unborn Child.
Oh,
Brilliant books if you want to delve into that. So I was
interesting.
very much on that level. I would say I had my masculine and feminine energies pretty much balanced. But if you live in a society that doesn't allow the natural ways, that
Mm,
doesn't allow for a fully autonomous human being. And if you still have some negative beliefs, which I had, you're going to hit a brick wall. So I did. I hit my dark night of the soul, and um, I had no money. I was in debt. Not a lot. It was only like 7,000, £5,000, probably about $7,000. But to
right.
me at that time, that was a hell of a lot of money. you
Yeah,
know?
especially then, it's a lot of money. And when you don't have a lot of money, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And my weight loss business wasn't enough to keep me going at that time. So, as I say, it's a long story. I write about it in this book. It's a long story. So this was my face-to-face thing with finances. I realized I had my own limiting belief systems. I knew
Mm,
my power was in me, but I was really, I would almost say heartbroken by the fact that I hadn't conquered this. I had my young son, he was 8 years old at the time. And because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and the minute my ex had stopped my maintenance payments, I was, you know, in big trouble, so to speak, financially.
right.
So I went on, in hindsight, what was a pilgrimage. I spent a month in Ireland. I went back to my family of origin, and my dad was still alive at the time. And I asked him to help me financially because I knew he could. I knew he could. But I was face to face with the dysfunctional family dynamics where I had learned my worthlessness.
Got it.
Where
Yes.
I had learned my worthlessness.
Hmm.
And that was the root of my financial issues. I was worth nothing. I had deeply learned that from people who had probably learned they were nothing themselves. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I
Yeah.
don't blame anyone. I simply was aware, again, awareness, aware that this is the situation. Now, I was very, very lucky because my family was narcissistic. And if you look into narcissistic traits of people, they will not help you. If they
Right.
want power over you, they will not help you. They will put brick walls in your way. So, but because it was like my dad and my brother and sister-in-law I was dealing with really and trying to negotiate,
Mm.
hey, come on, can I have some financial support here, after 20 something years? What's going on that, I can't go to my family for help? Most people can. What's the problem like? I was pretty straightforward with them.
Oh, interesting.
Incredibly difficult. Oh, it was really, talk about fear. That was off the charts. That was sweet. I thought, universe, come on, you got to be kidding. You give me these challenges. This is ludicrous. Look at where I'm going. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Come on, come on, come on. Please help me, help me, help me. So I knew just one step at a time. I kept being told, Extreme, strengthen your convictions. You're not going to give up homeschooling. You're not going to give up your writing career. You're not going to give up your counseling career. You're going to get financial backing from these people. You're going to find a way. So I used all the tools I had: forgiveness, love, processing the emotions, really asking for signs big time. And I got guided where to go, who to stay with. I was basically homeless for two months, but I stayed with
Wow.
family. I stayed with friends. I went. Then I was guided to go back to England at the time, stayed with a friend down in Cornwall. And all the time I could feel I was healing, I was morphing, I was handling really big time energies that you know, it was the biggest challenge of my life, but it was the dark night of the soul. And we got through it, and we got through it with financial backing from my family. And that was a miracle. That was
Wow.
a miracle, because to get money out of these people, I thought, it ain't gonna happen. They're just delighted that I'm failing miserably, you know. But some miracle happened. I just kept just saying, you're my father, you're my brother. I can see through the dysfunction. I can just send you a bit of light and a bit of love. We're still blood family. Understand you are doing the best you can, but I got to protect me and my son. Can't physically be about around you guys, but please help me out at
Mm.
this moment in time with what I'm going through. I'm not going to give up my life. That's why I called it My Life My Way, because literally being asked to not be me. Yeah, I thought, that ain't going to happen, because I'm going to be me. And I had tremendous faith in the benevolent forces of the universe that guide you through, and I took full responsibility. I thought, it's my own limiting belief systems that have got me in this mess, and I'm going to get myself out of it. And thankfully, I reconciled with my ex, not in a romantic way, but just in a way where we could communicate. And he realized, yeah, come on, I got to do my maintenance payments, blah blah blah. And it I went through it, but my God, what an odyssey. I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not. I understand totally why people, and why I myself used to run away from these emotions, because they're big time stuff. They're not, as I say, not for the faint-hearted. So I say to people, never beat yourself up about having the binge on food, about going for the alcohol or the cigarette. Do never, never, never beat yourself up about this stuff, because you got to understand the enormity of the dysfunctional emotions that you are trying to process. And
Uh-huh.
some days you just can't do it. You got to suppress them. So never beat yourself up about that. Just say, yeah, I'm having the cake when full, or I'm having the little glass of wine. That's okay. Just do it with full awareness, and you'll find, like, with that full awareness, you'll be able to stop that little bit sooner. Or you'll say, yeah, I know what I'm running away from. It's that chunk of fear, it's this issue that I'm dealing with. So okay, I have that awareness, even though I'm doing a bit of eating when full or whatever. But you'll find it will dissipate it. Just
Mm.
that non-judgmental awareness of what you're going through, and having that as your means to go forward. You'll find a few days down the line, if you get a craving, you'll be able to resist it and say, oh no, hang on, I know it's a chunk of anger I'm dealing with. I'll go and beat some pillows, or forgiveness, or this is the journey. This is the journey. It's absolutely fascinating. So that's how finances fit in with it. My financial issues was directly linked with a sense of worthlessness that I did not know I had, and then had to process that.
I think that's really important for people. I know it's really important for people to realize is sometimes we don't realize what we're holding. And like you
Yeah,
said, you didn't even realize I
yeah,
had this unworthiness until you step back into it and went, "Oh, this is what it is.
yeah,
This is where it's coming from." And but then having to work through it and having to work with challenging people in your lives. And I love
yeah,
how you worked on that, sending that love, sending that light to them, knowing on that soul level who they really were, even though they
yeah,
couldn't see it themselves, and
yeah.
kept sending that energy and sending that love and working through it. And a lot of people say, well, I should be able to figure this out in a day or two. And
Mm,
like you had said, it took months to work
yeah,
through this, to
yeah,
find the solutions and to not beat yourself up for it. Because so many of us, as soon as we hit that point, I went through this, I should have had it all taken care of. I shouldn't be seeing any of this anymore. And having something similar come up, first thing, oh, I did something wrong. I should be doing this. What do I need? I must not be good enough to get through this. And that comes with that worthlessness again. And
yeah,
it's just realizing everybody everybody can get through it. And it's giving yourself credit when things don't work out the best, when things are dicey, to know it's okay. Like you said, it's okay to, I'm going to just not deal with it today, to give yourself that emotional break because
yeah,
they're just showing me like people just going forward with like big shields in front of them and just going into battle and I'm going to do this and do it all at once instead of going, okay, that may work then, but then I need time to just be me and not be anything else and just not worry about trying to fix everything in the moment and just enjoy life in the moment and not come down on yourself when it feels, they just keep saying so many people think they're failures when they step back a moment, when they slide back a moment, and they're not failures at all. They're learning new skills as you go, and you have been teaching and helping people understand more and more skills going forward. And I feel there's so much information in this episode for people to listen to hear, and it's so important for people. And as you've been doing this, you did the breath working. So you did the breath work with somebody. Did you train to be a breath worker also,
yeah,
or did you? Okay. And
yeah.
how did that help you as you went forward also?
Oh, it's my go-to method, even today, because this is the thing. As I said, it's a journey and we live our lives, and there's always another layer of the emotional stuff surfacing, and there's always another challenge, maybe smaller challenges, maybe bigger challenges, we don't know. And breath work is my go-to method. I'll just lie down and I'll just check in with my body. Okay, what's going on for me emotionally? And I just breathe for that hour and I process my stuff. And yeah, when after I had the 3 sessions with Elizabeth, she went back to Switzerland. She was just visiting London at the time, and I got in contact with other breath workers in London. And did some one-to-one and some group work with them. And then I looked into doing a professional training, and I did that in Italy with Phil Lout and Jeannie Miller. Phil Lout has passed away, and they were trained by Leonard Orr. They were an American couple, and they were
Oh,
trained by Leonard Orr, the father of rebirthing. Again, I was
nice.
doing a lot of reading, personal just research and study, because I was fascinated by this whole topic. And I think you've got to be fascinated in your field of work. You're not an expert in your field unless you just love it, you know? So I trained in Italy. I did my 5-day intensive there, and that was wonderful, and processed a lot of my issues with my father in that particular training. And I came back, and that's when I started really launching into the doing one-to-one sessions, both with the weight loss work and with rebirthing, and doing the group work. Um,
So what do you cover? Like you offer the sessions. What types of things do you cover with people? So if somebody wanted to book a session, what are things you cover? Do you pretty much anything they're looking for clarity for themselves on their weight loss, or how does that entail for you? So if someone contacts you, what happens?
Right. Well, what we focus in on is three main guidelines. One is eating when hungry and stopping when full. Two is pinpointing and resolving the emotional issues that are linked to their eating when full. And the third is raising their self acceptance.
Hmm.
So all of the sessions will have those three guidelines covered in them. So, first of all, we'll be looking at, for example, well, how in tune are you with your hunger and fullness sensations? Are you aware when you're full, but you're unable to stop eating? Or are you just, I'm not aware of when I'm full, I'm just hungry all the time? Is it a gray area for you? Do you know when you're hungry? Are you aware of the degrees of hunger from being a little bit peckish to being absolutely ravenously starving?
Mm.
Do you know the degrees of fullness from being, oh, it just covered my hunger pangs, to being stuffed full of food? So I go through that with people. How aware are you of the physical, those subtle physical sensations of hunger and fullness? So we'll cover that. Then I'll give them the Am I Hungry handout sheet straight up. That's what I recommend for everybody. Just download that onto your phone or print it out. It's just 2 pages. It's the whole course condensed.
I'm
Just
just going to say, I did print it out
yeah,
and there's great information on here. And there's just a couple of pages, but such a great tool to use. So highly recommend that. And
um,
definitely booking a session with you is important, I feel too.
that would be wonderful. Yeah. So I help people know exactly what is driving them to eat when full. And then we really hone in on that. So the first thing, as I say, I'll give them is the Am I Hungry handout sheet. And then, for example, after a week of them using the Am I Hungry handout sheet, I'll say, right, how was your week with using that Am I Hungry handout sheet? So they maybe say, well, on Tuesday, I just couldn't control it. I was eating when I was full. So I say, okay, right, let's go back to that. And I'll get them to visualize themselves back in that situation when they were out for the meal, they
Mm.
were with friends, and for example, maybe they kept on eating because the food cost so much, or because they were afraid that their friends would comment on, oh, are you leaving that food behind? We would look at the reasons why they felt compelled to keep on eating beyond physical fullness at that point in time. And then I'll ask them to visualize themselves actually having the power to stop when full, put the knife and fork down, and just feel the feelings that come up, and then ask, given the fact I feel this way, what would I like to do now? And ask them what is that intuitive guidance? Would they be, you know, told to, or have the idea to just get up and go for a walk, or to sit back and push the food away and risk the friends making commenting, oh, you're not leaving that behind, are you? You know how much that cost, and just have a sip of water and say, yeah, no thanks, I'm full, really, I'm full. No, I don't mind. I'm not going to shovel that into my stomach. I'm full. Oh, you know what about, I'll have a doggy bag. I'll take it home with me. And you just ask the waiter, if oh, can I take that home with me? It's really delicious, you know and you learn how to handle these situations with sort of visualization. So I use a bit of visualization, and we also use visualization to tap into who you are slim and who you are at the larger size, because a lot of people find they are completely different people. So
Interesting.
yeah, this is, people love this visualization, because they find when they're slim, they're usually the life and soul of the party, and they're wearing a figure hugging skirt and they get lots of attention. And when they're at the bigger size, they're sitting in the back and they're wearing like a tent, and they're, you know, nobody's paying any attention to them, they're being ignored. So I help people find the positive in being that big woman. When you're the big woman, go beyond the negative, go into, right, there's something positive in this. There's a payoff in being this large woman at a party, at a social event. What is it? And so the visualization helps you discover your own personal positive aspect of being large. And then I say, it could be security, it could be friendliness, it could be a sense of humor, it could be a solidity, it could be protection, being this big woman. So I say, well, you can get slim and you don't have to lose the protection. You don't have to, you lose the excess weight, but you're not going to lose protection, solidity, security, humor. You can take that with you, but you have to consciously remind your mind. that that is possible. You're reprogramming your thinking and your belief systems. I can be slim and secure. I can be slim and protected and safe. So there's a lot going on there with subconscious belief systems that we unearth and resolve, you know?
I think that's really important for people. What you just said, how you look at yourself as two different people, as someone who's maybe a little heavier versus someone who's slimmer, and you look at yourself as that would be two different people. And I'm just hearing, especially people who get a little anxious in social areas, sometimes it's looking like if I get slimmer, then I'll have to deal it's those are the emotions I don't want to deal with people talking to me having to have a conversation, me having to do that. So sometimes it's the other emotion of wanting to be less than, thinking that then I will need to do this other instead of having the boundaries to say, I can be slim and I can still stand in the background if I want to. I don't
Yes.
need to engage if I don't want to. It's knowing you have the options. So I'm just feeling the fear with sometimes it's I can stay in the background and I don't want to be in the front, in the foreground. And
Yes.
that's also something you help people through, I would imagine, during
Yeah.
sessions if that is
Yeah.
part of what they are experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. We explore, well, how do I protect myself? How do I keep people away? How do I draw people near? We really explore that. How can I feel secure? How can I, and it boils down to the simple thing um, of knowing you can handle whatever life gives you. Just knowing you can handle whatever life gives you. And you will make mistakes. And mistakes are wonderful because you learn so much from your mistakes. So once you allow that fluidity of life, that morphing, um, it's a perspective that empowers you because there's so much in this world. You get slim and your life will be perfect. That message is
Mhm.
a lie. You get rich and your life is perfect. That message is a lie. Things aren't set in stone.
Yes.
We have to go with the flow of life. Life is an ongoing thing, and it's learning a new standpoint, a new way of looking at life. When you go into life and you know that it's okay to make mistakes, it's tremendously freeing, and you get to laugh at yourself. I developed
Um,
a very strange sense of humor with that book, My Life My Way. It's real dark night of the soul stuff that I just developed this dark sense of humor, and it got me through it. Something, I love watching stand-up comedians, and I
oh,
think they are healers. They are healers. A good stand-up comedian, and they talk about comic genius.
mm,
It is a form of genius, and they heal people because they get people to laugh at tragedy.
oh, that's very
You know?
true. That is very true. That's something I had made the connection before, but that is so very true because there's things that they talk about the dark aspects a lot of time and they make people start laughing about it. And, laughter raises vibration and people, you look at it differently when it's shown to you from a different perspective. So I love that they're healers. And my team just wants to say this real quickly. People look at certain people, they're a healer, and they don't look at themselves as they're a healer themselves. And my team they're kind of getting on a tangent lately of people have to realize no matter what you do, you're healing people, you're helping people, no
Yeah.
matter what you do in life, you are helping other people around you, and to know you are worthy of everything because you are always a healer at all times, no matter if you've got it all figured out or not. You're always helping someone else, no matter what.
Yeah. It's because there'll always be people more healed, more together than you. And there'll always be people not as together or not as healed as you. And I do believe we meet the right people. I will bump into the people that are that little bit further ahead on their journey than me. And they just give me the insight, they give me the aha moment. And it could be a woman I meet at the bus stop, or it could be the comment from a tarot card reader, or it could be, a YouTube video or a book. But it's that person that has that, added expansion of consciousness or whatever that pulls me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we all have that. We all have the people that we will meet that will pull us up. It's just being open and aware and ready and asking for it. And also there'll be other people where I know I'll be helping them. I'll make a comment and they'll say, oh, it's funny you should say that. Or, oh, I feel so much better from talking to you, or, whatever. But as you said, that's all of us. It's every single one of us. That's you, and it's the people that are listening here today. It's the same thing. I think that is just life. That's the journey each and every one of us human beings are on, whether we know it or not. Even the most unconscious people, someone
Yeah.
who's in the throes of addiction and is in a bar and having their 17th vodka,
Yes.
someone will come up and just say something to them and it'll make them think. And
Yes.
maybe it will be the first step on them getting into an A meeting, maybe 5 years later, you
Right.
know. But there's always someone at your level of consciousness that can bring you up. And there's also someone at your level of consciousness that can drag you down.
Yes.
So again, that's where awareness is very key. So you can say, oh, whew, I'm being pulled down here. And you become aware of how much control you have or you don't have. And
Mm.
there are your challenges and issues in life. And you find your way out. And again, there's the other people with higher levels of consciousness, and they will be your guiding light. And they'll say, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you try this? Or, this is what I did, or whatever. And then you find you're just pulled in another way and you think, oh, this is the healing way. This is my solution. This is my next step forward. I ain't going to go that way. I'm going to go this way. It's always your own personal choice. And something I heard, I think it was from Osho, he said, no matter what you do in this world, if you do a so-called bad act,
Mm.
something good will come out of it and something negative will come out of it. If you do a so-called good act, something good will come out of it and something negative will come out of it. Now,
Love
isn't
that.
that fascinating? No matter what you do, there's potential for great good and there's potential for great bad. Now,
I
that
love
really
that.
changed my perspective. So it doesn't really matter what you do. And you know what that perspective does for you? It makes it easier for you to make the conscious, positive choice.
Love
That's
that.
empowerment. When you come from that perspective, the darker has less hold on you and you can more easily move towards the light because you've got this. It doesn't actually really matter what I do, and I'm
Right.
not going to be judgmental about what I do. And I think all of us have this, we just want to go to the light,
Yeah.
really do. So we will just go to the light. We say, I ain't interested in that anymore. Been there, done that, the negative, the addiction,
Yep.
the eating when full, the drinking, the smoking doesn't have any hold on you anymore. But I do believe in the value of having experienced that. I'm very glad I experienced being a compulsive eater. I'm very glad I experienced being around an addict. I'm very glad I know what it's like to be a cigarette smoker and to be a drinker. I'm very glad I know what that's like. It was this experience, it's life experience. But I'm glad I have the power to not do that anymore.
I love what you just said, and especially about not giving power to the choices. There's going to be good and bad no matter what choice you make. So
Yeah,
make the choice that feels right to you. And by doing so, you're not giving it, they're just showing like before it would be like, this is a good choice, so it's way up here energetically. This is a bad choice, so it's got to be way down here energetically. And instead of doing it that way, looking at no matter what I do, there's going to be bad coming from it.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter what I do as long as I keep going to what feels good to me. It's all going
yeah,
to be word. It's all going to work out. It's all going to be better. And just I just feel that lightness of energy of not giving it such heavy value of
yeah,
good or bad, but instead it's choice and I'm going to just do what I feel is right going forward. I think that's freedom to
yeah,
not look at every little move you make as this is good, this is bad, this is going to take me down the wrong road, this is going to take me down the right path, but knowing every choice I make, there is going to be a right and or not a right and a wrong, or a path that's good for me, a path that feels better for me, and I get to choose. You get to
yeah,
choose. That's the empowerment, is you get to choose. And so
yeah,
very important.
yeah. And when you're very self-accepting and very non-judgmental, it gives you more power. And when you're not in fear as well, that gives you more power. I spent a lot of time
Mhm.
processing fear, like literally years. You can spend a year processing one emotion and then another. I spent about a year where anger was my main thing I was processing. I spent about a year when fear was one of the main things I was processing. I spent about a year when grief was one of the main things I was processing. You just welcome the feelings and you gain the skills to be able to sit with and experience pretty uncomfortable feelings. It's a life art.
And I think that's important for people to realize is this doesn't mean you fix it tomorrow and then everything is good and you just move on. It's knowing it's a continual journey. And I like how you said it's a journey. It's a continual journey and to move yourself forward through the journey and appreciating it and knowing they want to bring me back to the point where you said, fixing yourself, working through the addiction, doing that, it isn't going to bring you happiness. Happiness is your stepping into you, finding your own happiness, finding your own joy, finding what makes you happy. It's going to help you find it easier, but
Yeah,
you're the one that has to look for it and find what makes you happy. Like you said, money doesn't really buy happiness. It may help along the way, but it
yeah,
doesn't buy the happiness you're looking for. And that comes from within, working through your emotions and understanding who you are. So that is so very key. I I want to thank you so much for helping so many people, for putting this information out there. And I just want to read a little bit on your true slimness. It says losing excess weight for good is all about dealing with feelings, and this book allows you to stop when full and deal with feelings that can drive you to the fridge when full. And also, it is the next book you have, Simply Full. It's ideal for the busy day-to-day living because so many people say, well, I'm so busy, I don't have time. And you offer some very easy, simple ways for people to work through it because you've had time to find the easy ways because I know your life
yeah.
has been extremely busy and everything going on. But you have on here that whether you feel stuck with your excess weight or confident in shedding the extra pounds, this helps you make the transition from being overweight self to a slim self to a journey that allows you to address the unresolved issues behind the cravings and filling up your life from within, and you can shed the excess weight for good. And it's about filling you up, but they just keep showing me like just filling you yourself up with these beautiful words to yourself and the worthiness that we're all worth it. And you have done such a great job helping so many people with that. And I just want to ask, is there something else you'd like to cover before we close for today?
I think that's it. I want to thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours and hours. You're such a beautiful soul and such a gifted individual. And again, thank you for having this platform for speakers such as myself that, we're just doing our own little work. And you're giving us a voice, you're giving us a platform. And, thank you for helping people through your work as well. I just feel such a lovely connection with you. Thank you so much for your work.
Oh, Thank you so much, Sophia. It is absolutely a pleasure for me. And one of the things for me, and I thank you so much. You have such a beautiful soul. It just shines. It's so bright and it's so loving and gentle. I just keep hearing so gentle. So I encourage people who are afraid sometimes, that fear coming up of, oh, or if I contact this person, are they going to judge me? And maybe I just want to work through. I'm pretty good, but maybe I've got a few things I'd like to work through. Sophia, she has such a beautiful soul and a gentle soul. I don't feel any judgment coming from her at all. And she will definitely be there making sure you are well taken care of and you can discuss anything with her. I know she is such just I my team just keeps saying you're so gentle, you're so gentle, you're so
Oh,
gentle with people.
thank you.
It has been an absolute pleasure, and everything that's been shared is so important for people to hear. And I just want to encourage everyone, please go to her website. It's SofiaBothwell.co.uk. And the links will also be down below. And again, she has phone and Skype sessions, FaceTime sessions, and she has her books that you there I know on your website you can also purchase its time slimness. Is that right?
True slimness, true slimness.
True Slimness. I'm reading my True Slimness, yes, and Simply Full are there that you can purchase. And then on Lulu is My Life, My Way book. I feel there's a lot of great nuggets in that book also. And I am so happy to have you on here and so happy to share your story because I know it's going to be helping so many more people with who you are. And just I just feel like your light just spreading everywhere. And I'm just so thankful for having this time with you, and I appreciate you so much.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. And again, everybody go to her website, check her out, check out her books. And then I just want to encourage everyone and thank you so much, Sophia, for sharing your time and your knowledge with everyone here. And please make sure to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radios. They are on the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you've missed any past episodes, you can listen to the downloadable podcast or watch the interview on the YouTube, on my YouTube channel, on Edge Magazine's YouTube channel. And I just want to thank all of you. Thank you all for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Have an absolutely amazing day.